Hey everyone, just thought I'd share some quick tips on my Subaru build. These are some things you should look out for or things you should consider to do while you've got the engine out. Now these cam bolts are notorious for being stripped out, damaged, or just an absolute pain in the butt to get out. Definitely order 4 new ones while you are preparing for your build. Here's one that was in the car. Now a really good tip you can do is, if I can get this to focus, there's actually valve grinding compound in there. Now if you use the valve grinding compound, just smear some in there and then get your 10mm Allen key and have at it, and you'll find you'll get way more grip out of them, and you shouldn't really strip it if you have everything centered and straight. It's bloody tough to do. I did it with one of these, just a regular old breaker bar, and on some of the tough ones I actually had a bit of a cheater pipe, and you can see that there near the shovel. So, and I used the Company 23 cam tools. They did the job. Be careful on the just be careful you don't chip them as well, especially the non-AVCS cam gear pulleys. They can you can slip off and chip them, so make sure you got someone either holding it or you're jamming up against something and just go for it. Now while you've got the engine out, I do recommend blocking off your throttle body coolant ports. If you look closely, let me see if we can get some light here. I've got a little block off nipple right there, and there's another one at the back here, and these actually go here, and there's another one that goes down there. Now I've just blocked them off. I figured less places a hose can fail or whatever. I've seen some people actually route a hose from here to here, which would work as well. I just had these nipples laying around, so I thought, why not chuck them on. Another quick thing you can do is delete your PCV. Now let me see if I can get some good lighting in here. You can see I've got a bolt in there, maybe. There you go. PCV valves normally in here on this model of Forester WRX engine, EJ25. And the beauty of that is you've got quite a bit less piping. You don't have pipes coming from here and then going back in, same as this side, going from there back in. And then obviously you need to block off the pipe, the points on your intake pipe here on your turbo inlet. So I've got a block off here, then I've got one at the back there as well, same thing, just a rubber cap. Definitely another thing you should consider is the aftermarket turbo inlet. Much easier to install it while the engine is out and you've got everything apart and the turbo's off. Highly recommend getting one of those. I've also done TGV Deletes. They were definitely worth it. We'll find out if they make any difference in power, but in terms of just removing stuff, they're great. I've removed the protector that goes here for your injectors, so if I need to change injectors in the future, it's much easier. Now that actually does remove a grounding point. I didn't have to extend anything or do anything crazy. That's my new grounding point there. It's actually just on the TGV housing, so that's really convenient. I'm sure it'll work fine. I've just taped up the excess connectors, so I mean they're a bit ugly, but one less thing. You do need to cut out this though from one of your TGVs. Not sorry, the TGVs. This is for the air pump delete. That's another thing I really recommend doing. If you look there, you can see I've got a block off plate there on one of the heads, and this one is much more visible. Another block off plate there. Now when you're doing your air pump delete, you have to cut out this barometric sensor. You need to leave it plugged in. I've just taped it all up, and I'm just going to just chuck it down here for now. I don't know, I might zip tie it later on or something. But you do need to do that, otherwise, I can't remember what happens, but you probably throw a check engine light, number one, and number two, your fueling will be off, because this tells the ECU how dense your air is. So I guess if you live higher altitude, or lower altitude, it's going to affect your air-fuel ratios and how dense the air is. So you definitely need that plugged in still. There's not really a whole lot more. I mean, obviously basic things, you do all the engines out, fresh plugs, fresh gaskets. That's about it, really. They're the two things that I would do. They're not really that expensive. The turbo inlet is probably the most expensive part. The block-off plates are not very expensive. TGV Deletes are not that expensive for the weldless kit. That's what I use, the KS Tech, I think it was, or something. Weldless kit, so they were pretty neat. They worked out. I just did the TGV Deletes myself. Just pop them in the grinder in the vise, and then use a Dremel and an air die grinder to cut them out. Seals, all pretty straightforward if you've done engines before. But yeah, I definitely recommend doing the PCV Delete, because you won't get any oil going back through your intake. So your intercooler will always be dry, your turbo inlet will always be dry. You're just not having that oil get recirculated through that oily mist. So I still have the engine breathers to equalize the pressure between the crankcase and the two heads. But this is only temporary, I will be routing these to a catch can, and then the catch can will be venting to atmosphere. Now, depending on where you are in the world, that may or may not be legal. This is going to be an off-road car, so that's no issue with me. But definitely something to consider. Less piping, you'll get better longevity out of your engine, and you have no chance of pre-detonation due to that oily mist being recirculated in and causing knock. So that is probably the main mod I would recommend. Good luck, guys, with your Subi builds. Hopefully you'll hear from me soon.